What's up, guys? Welcome back to Rip City Rundown, and I am doing a 1 versus 16 preview, Kansas versus Howard. Who would have seen this coming? And you're probably asking, why are you doing this? We know what's going to happen. Kansas is going to roll, and yeah, you're right. Kansas will absolutely roll in this game. I see no world where Howard will win, but I wanted to make this video because I want to talk a little more in depth about Kansas because, again, this is before looking at the entire bracket. Again, we've been doing all these previews just game by game individually. Haven't looked deep into the bracket yet. We've given our initial thoughts and a little bit in depth. But before even looking at the bracket, I think Kansas is the favorite to win the national title. And I want to talk about that. Before we do, give Howard their due diligence. We'll talk about them real quick. They went 22-12, 11-3 in conference. They did play one top 25 team this year, and they got smacked by Kentucky, lost by 32, lost by 46 to Yale, and lost by 10 to VCU. So this team is not good at all. Obviously, a 16 seed should never win. Their only one win came when UNBC won. But I think Howard, their only chance of winning is they can get super hot from three. They've done it a couple times this year, clearly not against a really good opponent. And they have a little bit of balance in their offense. If they're not hitting the three, they normally like to get inside and make some buckets in there. They average 75 points per game, which is actually more than Kansas, but obviously it's against worse competition. But before I say it, Kansas is going to win this game. Kansas is 9th in the BPI. Howard's 224th. So let's move on to Kansas. Let's talk about Kansas. This is a 27-7 team, 13-5 in conference. They did get knocked out in the semifinals of the Big 12 tournament to Texas, but this team probably has their best resume in the entire country. You look at these wins they have. They beat Texas, they beat Baylor, they beat Duke, they beat Kansas State, they beat Indiana, they beat Iowa State, they beat Kentucky, they beat TCU. Now, they've also lost to Texas, lost to Baylor, lost to Tennessee, lost to Kansas State, and lost to Iowa State and TCU. But I think this is the most complete team in college basketball. They've got so many different options. Let's talk about Jalen Wilson first, their best player. Jalen Wilson is returning from that national championship team last year, and he has absolutely taken the role as the best player this year after being probably the third best player last year, maybe even fourth behind DeJuan Harris. But I think Jalen Wilson is possibly a National Player of the Year candidate, top 5. He's averaging 20 points per game, 8 rebounds, almost 2.5 assists, a steal, and half a block. He's getting to the basket. He's shooting the ball from three fairly well, 34, almost 35%. But then you move off of Jalen Wilson. You got a guy like Grady Dick who can shoot the lights out from three, 40%, averaging 14 points per game. Kevin McCullough, the transfer, 10 points per game. KJ Adams, 10 points per game. DeJuan Harris, 8.6 assists. He is the facilitator. He's the engine of this team, and he averages 2 steals. And I didn't even mention McCullough's averages 2 steals, McCullough. So this team is so complete. One of the best offenses in the country. They've done it before. That's the thing. Now, that's a positive and a negative. They've clearly shown that they can do it, but they also did already do it. The team rarely ever gets back to the national championship, let alone wins 2 in a row. The only team I can think of in recent history to get back to the national championship after losing or just after being in it, is North Carolina back in 2017 when they lost to Villanova and then won the next year against Gonzaga. So I think this Kansas team is primed for a deep run. I do think their bracket region is not the easiest, but I think they have a relatively straightforward path to the Elite Eight. I don't think Arkansas or Illinois poses a threat, and then I don't really like UConn or St. Mary's as much as I do other 4 and 5 seeds. Now, I do like UCLA and Gonzaga and TCU from the bottom, so they could have a really tough matchup if they make it to the Elite Eight. But when it comes to playing Howard, for those of you that need a prediction, Kansas is going to roll by at least 30 points. So that's my prediction for this game. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Do you think Kansas wins by at least 30? Let me know in the comments, and I'll see you in the next preview. Peace.